Hey everybody, and welcome to another RCT2 hacking tutorial. Today we're going to show you how to make an Intamin impulse coaster that has a holding brake on the rear spike. If you're not familiar with Intamin impulse coasters, there's only a handful of them around. Actually, Cedar Point just removed theirs the other year, so there are even less around. But the standard model was a U-shaped layout like this, with a twisted spike on the front and a rear spike on the back. And the back spike had an added interesting feature of having a holding brake on it that you can see here in white on my model. And when it was working, as the ride backed up onto the spike, it would grab and hold the train for just a second and then let it go and drop back down. The general sort of theory of operation for this ride is that it loads in the station, it launches outwards, forwards, just a little bit like this. Then it will stall out and come on back, and it will gain speed on a second backwards launch, where it will go further up onto the rear spike. Then it will get a further third launch to push it up to the top of the twisted spike. And then it has one more section here where it will grab on this rear spike, holding just like that on the brake, and then dropping down into a brake that will slow it down partially up the front hill and then back down again. So we have the impulse coaster in RCT, but we don't have the brake option. But we're going to show you how to do that today, and it's going to be pretty easy, I think. Just follow the template in the tutorial, and we should be all set and rolling. So without further ado, let's get into how to build it. So the hack setup looks something like this. While it is a little messy, maybe, it's not that complicated actually. So here's how we're going to do this. So basically we're going to have three separate rides here. We have the red impulse coaster down here, which is actually perpendicular to our actual visible ride. And this is actually the main ride. This is what's doing the work. Then we have the white and black coaster here. That's the visible impulse coaster that you're going to end up seeing, that you'll theme and everything like that. Then we have the blue track up here, this vertical drop coaster track, and this is our control. So this is what we're going to use for the front sections of the car to go do their thing and move the ride back and forth, and then ultimately go onto the holding brake, which is going to be just using the vertical drop coaster holding brake just at the right moment. So the idea here is basically we're going to split a larger train into two parts. We're going to send one part up top, and then we're going to send one part down here on the bottom. Then that one part that's up top is going to be considered our control, and we're going to make that invisible in the end. And the idea is this blue track is doing all the work, and the tailing section of the train, which is on this white and black track, is just kind of there to do its own thing and assist us with some gravity on either side. So that's really all it comes out to. There's only a couple of things that you need to pay attention to as you're building this, but otherwise it can be customized to any real overall design. So this can be larger, this can be smaller. You just need to adjust your control track and your visible track accordingly. We'll get into a little bit more of that here as we get going. So why don't we watch how this runs. So if I put this into test, we can see this is a 12-car train, and it's going to split immediately. This is a set and forget type ride. I like doing these where you don't have to shift around a bunch of things and you can just set it and go. A standard impulse of this type has 7 cars on it, and I've measured that the launch track is typically about 2 times the length of the station. While we don't have an actual station on the visible track, I've marked out this section in gray that feels more or less about right. So let's put this in test, and we can see we get this first little bit that's going to push us here, and then we're going to stall out on this flat section up top. Now we've got a backwards drop on the blue track that's going to help accelerate us for the second launch. Then we'll get an actual booster for the third launch. And now we're going to retreat back, and here's where the magic of this one happens. We're going to hit a holding brake right there behind the spike, and it's going to hold for just a second, let go, and then the momentum is going to push this back up to the top, and it will stall out, and then we're going to back into some brakes, and we're going to just ease back here into the station and call it a day. There we have it. Because this is a shuttle, and because we have used the same sections of track for going down as we have going up, we got both a steep drop with 3 steep sections on the down, and on the going back up, we also have one little dip down here, one little dip up here. As long as we have those things, then this is going to stop at the same spot every time, which is exactly what we want. And that eliminates some of the challenge that you have sometimes with these sorts of rides. All right, so let's get to work. You need OpenRCT for this hack, and you will need to go into the cheats menu here, and you're going to want to have allow arbitrary ride type changes in here. You're also going to want to disable vehicle limits. I like to build while paused, so I click allow building while paused. Really, honestly, you should just click all of these except for allow building track at invalid heights, because that one can screw up your build sometimes. You're also going to want to hit the disable clearance check so you can build what we're doing. So first we're going to pick our impulse coaster here, and we're going to build the visible track first, and then we're going to build the control track, and then we're going to build the actual track. So it's a little bit backwards from usual, but that's how we're going to make this one work. So I'm going to start by picking about where I want the spike to go. So we're going to go here and click 1. Now this is one of the very few rides that I will say you can build on the ground. Any sit down or below track riding a ride, always put it up a little bit. This one, because it's an inverted coaster, you can put it on the ground on this way, and typically a lot of these are sitting on the ground. So this launch track I have estimated at 19 pieces, so we've already put down our first piece. So we're going to do 18 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. So 18 plus 1, that is 19 horizontal pieces here on the flat section. Now we're going to build the spikes. I like to ease into these, so we're going to go up 1, have a shallow piece, and then a steep piece, and then 1. And then we'll go vertical here. Same thing on the rear spike, 1 shallow, 1 steep, and vertical. Now on this front spike, we're going to go 1 more vertical just to get the train started up the vertical before we do the twist. And we're going to do a left-hand twist here, 1, 2, 3. So this mimics the real one, which has a left-hand twist and goes about 270 degrees. So we'll go that direction there. And then on the rear, we want to generally match the height thereabouts. So we're actually going to do 10 here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So this length has been calculated out because it's about a station and then 2 stations worth of launch plus 1 behind it. So that's how I've generally figured this length to be. It seems to be about right as I just judge on Google Maps. We'll take this one here, and we're actually going to mark out a station. So even though we're not using a station on this one, we're going to mark it out just for visual purposes and to help us pin all the rest of the stuff down. So we've highlighted this last piece, which we're already have here right-clicked. We're going to take the second one, so second one from the back here. Click this one, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. That's our station right there. So that's where the train is going to park when we actually run the ride. Now, if we go back 1 from that station here, this is going to be our 0 point on the ride. And this is really only to help us mark some things out. This is where the actual working ride is going to cross. And then our control split up above is going to run from here too. So we're going to do that now by taking the vertical drop coaster here and building design. So we're going to build it up off the ground, and we're going to build it 100 feet above this guy. So this guy is sitting at 0 here, which is very convenient. So we're going to raise this up and go to 100, building a single tile station because that's all we need. So why are we building it high up? It goes high because we want to go up and drop down pretty substantially below, and I still want to keep it above ground. It doesn't have to be. You can do it really wherever, but this is just convenient. It's easier to build, doesn't get into your scenery if you've already built scenery around it, and it's just kind of less in the way, I suppose. Okay, so what we need to do here, this is where the train is going to start out, and we're going to shoot out for launch 1. We'll boost out of the station because we're going to have it on powered launch mode, but we want to extend that boost just a little bit, so we're going to add 4 pieces of booster track. I'm going to stick 2 at 27 and 2 at 36 here, although you can kind of match your profile to whatever you feel like. As long as the ride stays on the track, then you are pretty good, and you can always extend this if you need to. Again, this hack is entirely adjustable based on whatever you want to do. You're just going to have to adjust both the control track and below just to make sure that it all lines up to how you want it to be. Okay, so we'll put in an S-bend afterwards. You can go left or right, doesn't really matter. We just need to be consistent when we place the second one a little later. And now we'll place a whole bunch of straight tracks all the way out. So all the way out is sort of arbitrary, but really all we need to do is go further. Then this ride is going to stall as it comes up the spike. This train up here and this train down here are one train, so they're going to conserve momentum. They will do the same thing, either one. So this means that as this one launches out up here and this one is pushed out this way by this launch, conversely, as this one goes up this hill, the one on the green track here will slow down and eventually reverse because of the gravity of the one on the bottom. So they're working together. We just need to go longer than this one is going to take to stall out, and I know for a fact that it's going to be less than this length. So that's what we're going to do. So now from our S-bend, we're going to pick 1, then 2, then 3, and delete that third one. And now we're going to build a drop. So clicking here, we're going to put the flat to steep, 1, 2, 3, and then go flat again. And then we're going to make sure that we fill this in up on top. You need the zero clearances on for this to work. So now that this is done, this is going to act as our second drop. So our ride is going to be now coming backwards and is going to drop down here. And this is going to give this that backwards launch speed. So this is going to be our launch number 2. Now we got a little bit of a flat section here to go before we go back up the spike. And this is all just what I've measured from this control track, which is largely trial and error. It's actually going to be 10 pieces. So that's what we're going to put down. We're going to use booster track because once this comes off of the spike, we're going to be going down the third launch, and we want to be hitting the third launch in this direction. As you go backwards over these booster tracks, it has no effect. So in the direction that we're building, it's going to have no effect as the ride travels over it, but in the reverse direction, it will launch it again. We can max out at 67 miles per hour on the vertical drop coaster boosters, and we're going to take those. So we're going to build 10 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Done. Okay, so now we're going to build this reverse spike, and I'm going to kind of match what's going on down here with the 1 shallow. Then we're going to do 4 steep pieces. You can do these reverse spikes however you want to do. You could go flat and just go way out. You can do vertical. You can do whatever you want. It's going to be invisible. Really doesn't matter too much. But I wanted to kind of slow down in this fashion. We are putting a number of cars up here on this track to kind of balance out from a weight standpoint, just so that what's going on up here is pretty equally affecting what's going on down here and vice versa. Okay, so now we're going to go back down here and we're going to nab this first booster track right here, right off that drop, and we're going to delete it. Then we're going to come here and we're going to build a little tiny dip. So 1 and 2 flat, and then we're going to come back up here. And we're going to put that launch piece back in at 67. Okay, so why the little dip? So when we come back up top after our whole sequence is done and we come into the brake run here, brakes are going to come in just 1 tile underneath the station here. And we're going to rise up into the station. We need to match this rise with a little drop down below in the same way that we need to match the drop that we just did here for launch 2 with the rise here on the way out. These are the only things that we need to keep consistent, and I mean exactly the same pieces. So if you do some pieces that are different, the ride will get out of sequence. Okay, so now we come back here and we right-click on our little slope here, and we're going to grab boosters again. This time we're only going to go for 7, so we're going to go back up to the 67 max speed. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Now this spike, I want a little bit of a slower roll, so you can see here that we've got a couple of shallow pieces here before we actually go up steep. Doesn't make a huge difference, but I like the look of it. So we're going to go here and then 4 steep pieces. Okay, so next up we're going to grab the second of the booster pieces, and we're going to delete that. So that matches what we've done here. And we're going to put in an S-bend that matches this direction of the S-bend above. And we're going to do that. Now don't forget to come back and put that booster right back. Okay, so now we're going to drop 2 brakes in. So these brakes are at 54 miles per hour. These really don't do a whole heck of a lot, but they do act as a little bit of a speed check to make sure that everything's consistent every time. So we'll drop 2 of those in there and just leave it at that. So now we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. 14 flat sections plus the 2 brakes for our last run here. So this, as you may remember, is a first launch here, the drop down here, which is the backwards launch. Then we're going to go up the spike, have our third and big launch here, go up the vertical spike here. Now we're going to back up, and now we're setting up for the section when the brake run or the brake on the spike is going to take effect. So after that 14th flat tile, we're going to go up and then we're going to go right to steep immediately, go one steep, and then we're going to go into the special, and we're going to select holding brake for drop. You can see it right here. It's sort of mixed in with the piece, but this is where the magic is going to happen, where that front section of the train that's on this green track is going to stop briefly for a second and hold the rest of this train vertically. So we're going to drop that in place, and then we're actually going to grab 2 brakes after this. These brakes I've got set at 22. You can't go too far because you don't want to stop the train before it gets onto the brakes. So we're going to do these 2, and then we're going to just steep section here and then another vertical. So that holding brake interacts with the front car. So we got to make sure the entire train gets up here and over. Again, this is a trial and error height and location. So that's really where this is based off of and where it comes from. Okay, so now all we need to do is get to the back up to the top here. So we're going to go back up to the top, and this is going to be the 3rd one here after the brakes. So if we go back here and grab 1, we're going to grab 2 and 3 and delete this. I'll come back forward, go straight to steep, 1, 2, 3. Remember, we need to match this drop. Then we're going to go flat. We're going to go flat one more. Now you should be just 5 below this guy here, which is exactly what we want to do. So we're going to go 1 flat. Then we'll do our reverse spike up here. This will be that final little bit as the ride has already done its brake here. It comes forward and then goes kind of partially up this spike before it backs into the station. So now we're going to delete this guy and we're going to come backwards in this direction. And we'll put 1 more flat section in there. So it's 2 flat sections here, like you can see. And now we're going to pull out the brakes. We want this to just kind of slowly glide back into the station here, from here back into the red. So we're going to say we want to have 36 is our starting. Then we're going to just ease down for 6. So we're going to go to 31. That's number 2, 3, 4, number 5, and number 6. And that should put us 2 tiles away from the station. If it didn't, then you've missed something along the way. So just go back and double check that all of your numbers are correct. And then we're going to go up and we're going to go flat. And then there we are. Now we do need to put back this steep bit here, and there we go. Now we're probably going to need to swap these in the tile inspector here in a little bit, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Okay, so now we need to get down here because this is where our actual ride itself is going to live that runs the whole thing. So we're going to go find our home position right here as we have marked with the snow. Go 2 forward of that, and we're going to place our first station piece. Then we're going to place a number of them back this way, no matter how many, and then go out the back side to fit our 12-car train. I have this on the perpendicular so that you can pretty easily place the entrance huts on either side. Just makes it more convenient in my opinion. But anyway, that's how I want to set that up. So let's build backwards out of our station here, our control station. We're actually going to go back here 1, 2, 3, and 4, and we're going to do those without brakes. So 1, 2, 3, and 4, and now we're going to turn on the chain lift, and we're going to go steep drops. We're building backwards down this drop. We're going to go vertical here, and then we're going to twist this to vertical, and we're going to slope down, and then we're going to slope to flat. So that should get us down to 0 right here. What we're doing here is basically ensuring that once we split this train apart, we're going to get the first section of the train up here into the station and spaced exactly so that the second half of the train is going to park right here in the station that we marked. So this is really just measured to match either one of them. So now that we're down on the ground, we're going to go 2 more out, and then I'm going to go 1 here, and then 3 more, and then curve, and put 1 here. So now what we'll do is take this inverted impulse coaster here, the one that's going to actually work, and we're going to change this temporarily into a vertical drop coaster. So what we want to do is go backwards here 4 tiles. So we want to go 1, 2, sorry. I'm going to go 1 from this home spot, 2, 3, which is the home piece, and then 4 and delete that one. From that station, then we will build out an S-bend just like this. We're going to go to the left, build that. So now what we can do is go through and put a curve, actually 1 more straight piece. So we should be aligned right with this front of the station. Now you're going to do a curve piece. We're going to do 3 more of these, and we're going to curve this, actually 4 more of these. 1 more, curve, 1 more here, curve, and then we're going to build straight until we can't build anything more, which means that it is now merged with this guy. Now what we need to do is merge with the front here, so we're going to take a straight piece with the chain lift on and do that. And then we're also going to come back here on our 3rd station piece and build backwards for this 4th station. This is a 1 continuous station. Now we can take this and go back to Impulse Coaster, so that's what we're going to do. Some of these pieces for the corners won't show up because the Impulse Coaster doesn't have corners to show, so we're just going to leave it at that. That's your hack. It is now done as far as the setup goes. We do not need an entrance and an exit up here because we are tricking the game into thinking that this station, Station 1, is the same as the station down here. We do want to make sure that Station 1, as it's called here, is indeed Station 1 and not like a Station 2 or anything. That's one of the big triggers if you have an issue with a shoestring ride that you need to check before you go too far into it. Right. So now let's try it out. So we want a power launch, but not passing the station as is the standard. We want to go without passing station because we're doing our own passes here all up above. And we can keep it at 33 miles per hour. That's totally fine. So what we want to do though is select and make sure we've got a single train with 12 cars. And then let's set this thing to test and then close. And pause. And let's test again and then up. We can make sure that this thing split properly to begin with. That lift hill right here is going to push this up and over to the top so it actually rolls back or something. You just forgot the lift right here. Now if we get rid of this, we can see we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cars here and 5 cars above. Exactly what we're supposed to have. So we should be good to go from there. Okay, so now we are probably going to need to adjust this, but let's take a look and see. Yep, you can see how it dips down into the brakes. That's not what we want. And then actually once this goes through this, we're going to go down that big drop, which is what we don't want to do. So we need to change both of these guys. So what we're going to do is pull out the tile inspector. So you can pull that out here way or do a shortcut and grab this first little bit here. You're going to see there's 2 track elements here that are 1 apart on top of our list. We want to swap those. We're going to take the top one and put it down 1. Then we're going to take this guy right here and take this section of track so you can hold control and click on that piece of track. Again, you're going to see 4 pieces because there's the 2 underneath here. We want to take these top 2 and we're going to swap them right here. That's literally all you need to do. So now we can test this one more time. Then once it gets up to the top, it's going to immediately start the sequence and we're going to be able to watch this guy in action for the very first time. So here we are. So launch 1 as we go, and it's going to go up here and stall out before it gets to the end of the track, exactly what we want. Now we'll drop down. Launch 2 right there as we go up the vertical spike here, but not quite the whole way. And now launch 3, little dip, launch 3 still continues, and then up all the way through the spike. Now we're going to go up to our holding brake right here, which we can see as it hits right there, just barely. Holds for a second. Now we're going to have just enough momentum to push us up to the spike up top here. Then we're going to slowly hit the brakes and we're going to back up into the station. We are parked. So you'll notice that the front of the train is right here at the front of the station, and it's going to do that every single time, and it will work just fine because we're basically going on a shuttle and these pieces match. So it should always come back to the same spot. If you notice that the car on the visible track here starts to drift, then that's an issue and you've messed up something in your green coaster here. So just go double check all the lengths and everything and make sure that it's all correct. Okay, so what's next? How do we make this all invisible? So what we're going to do is use the Edit Ride Vehicles plugin. If you don't have this, I will put a link to it in the description of the video so you can grab this yourself. We're going to find out what this guy is called, our running ride. So this is called Impulse Coaster number 5 for mine. So we're going to select this and we're going to select our vehicle number here that is you can see there's 12 different vehicles here, and we're going to select vehicle 1 just to start because this is part of the one that is on this track that we want to make invisible. So we just don't want to see this. We're going to change it from impulse trains, and I'm just going to change it over to maze. We're going to go to vehicle 2. We're going to change this over to maze. 3, maze. Vehicle 4 is a maze, and vehicle 5, maze. So while you can't see it, it's still running. So exactly what we needed to do. And now we're going to take this one here, vertical drop coaster 3, and we're going to go and make this a crooked house. So that's going to make that whole thing go away. All done. Now the last bit is all of these other pieces here. Now what we can do, if you want, is go ahead and make this invisible this way, but you'll notice once this goes to the flat section, it's actually going to sit lower on the ground. And we don't want it to do that. So the easiest way, and I think the cleanest way, is just to make all these bits invisible. So we're just going to go through here and click on each one of these with the tile inspector and just make it invisible. This guy, we'll grab this guy here. Remember, we don't need to do the straight pieces. So like you can see right here, when we click on some of these, like I think this guy's gonna have crossing, you'll notice you have 2 right here, and that's the one that we had that went this way that we just made invisible. So that's already invisible, you can't see it, but you can still click that eyeball anyway if you wanted. That doesn't matter. There we go, and now the station itself. So we'll get rid of the station. I recommend waiting towards the end to do this just because it's easier to mess with this hack when you can see everything, and then you don't have to go individually make things kind of one by one. All right, grab this guy. One more here. And now remember that the huts themselves, thanks to OpenRCT, if you go into the paint, we can actually make those go away just by clicking no entrance. Make sure you connect your pathways to them ahead of time already. But there you have it. An impulse coaster that's got a holding brake on it. It's pretty cool. It does exactly what we had asked it to do. 3 launches, and it goes back and forth 5 times. We're going to have our first launch here. Back up and have our second launch. It's fake. We're going to have our third launch here up to max speed. Well, that spiked, but not quite the whole way. We still want to have that safety factor there. And then we're going to go up the rear spike here with that holding brake, which we can grab right now. That we are going to drop down. All right, so there you have it. Hopefully that was relatively easy to follow. Give it a try, and if you have any troubles, just leave a comment here, and I will try and help you out and make sure that we can get this thing working for you. It's another easy one for us, and a great way to add something to our hacking park, which grows ever larger here as we look at all the things that there are to see. There are plenty more to come, and plenty more of the requests that I've had to do as well. So more to see in that regard. But as always, if you have a request that you would like to see that you haven't necessarily seen yet, then leave me a comment and I will try and add it to the list of accommodations. Also, if you haven't joined our Discord yet, then you should do so. I'll put a link in the description of the video, and you can come and hang out there. It's where we post stream updates. It's where we have some coaster discussion and lots of other fun. And it's just a great way to keep up to date with the channel. So hope you enjoyed this video, and hope you can follow along and build yourself your very own impulse coaster. We will talk to you next time and see you in the next video. Bye now. Thanks, guys.